And we're live. What up, world? It's Radioactive Podcast. It's your boy, Ace Boogie. And we got some guests with us today. We got Mr. Michael Tumbar. How you doing today? Did I say the last name right? How do you say the last name?
Turnbull.
Turnbull. I said it wrong. Mr. Danny Lewis, how you doing today, sir?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
So you guys had an exciting day today, or it was a boring day today?
It was just trying to stay cool, man.
Yeah,
Working day.
It was cooking out there, dude.
You say it was one of the hottest days of the year? So far?
Yeah, it was like 109 heat index. I mean, it's cooking out there.
Ooh, you cook some eggs on the concrete out there?
You probably could have, man. You probably could have.
All right, guys. So, viewers, once we get them, y'all have any questions, please go ahead and write them out so we can be able to ask the gentlemen and get their point of views on some things. I want to start it off today, guys, talking about some fun facts. You know, give the people some knowledge.
I thought that was pretty cool, pretty genius.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I definitely want to educate the folks. So they have a telescope called the Hubble telescope. I think that's what it's called. And this telescope can see far. Okay, like it's pretty much it can see the furthest thing out there. I think the furthest galaxy you can see is called Andromeda. Have y'all ever heard of Andromeda?
Yeah.
So it's like the furthest galaxy that you can see. And they were saying that, I was listening to Neil deGrasse Tyson. He was saying that if they were to be looking at a telescope of us from Andromeda, that they would see us as we were, not as we are. So meaning that it takes so long for light to finally hit the Earth that they would see us in the past rather than the future
right.
that we would be in at that time. And I mean, I thought that was amazing. That made me think of like time travel and like what? You know what I mean? Kind of blew my mind.
I think they said the furthest or the nearest star to us is like 40,000 light years away.
Really?
40,000. Traveling at the
sun is a star too, though, isn't it? Not?
Minus the sun. Minus our sun, 40,000 light years. So that means if you're traveling at the speed of light, it'll take you 40,000 years. That's the closest.
That's pretty far.
Yeah.
They also have they was talking about something called the twin paradox, meaning, so say if you had a twin brother, right? He went up into space, and say he was traveling at light speed. With you being on Earth and him being in space, say 10 years pass. When he came back down, you guys wouldn't be a different age. Of course, your age would be the same, but he would look a lot younger than you would. You know, not that kind of blew my mind.
I read that.
I was like, what in the world?
I read that about that theory. I still don't understand it.
So I mean, so guys, there's actually a possible way for you to stay young. We just gotta figure out how to move
travel at the speed of light.
Yeah, speed of light, exactly. Do you guys have any fun facts maybe y'all want to talk about?
Yeah, I actually do. Mine's actually space related as well. Really? Honestly, yeah. I found it interesting that the Earth rotates at 1,000 miles an hour at the equator.
Really?
1,000 miles an hour.
And we can't even feel it.
No, because
something like that, you be spinning off. You know what I mean?
And the reason you can't feel it is because we're all turning at the same time. So if all of a sudden the Earth stopped spinning, and this actually came from Neil deGrasse Tyson. I actually came up with this fun fact for. Everything would it's like the Earth hitting a brick wall, or you traveling in a car and hitting a brick wall. You would just instantly be ejected at like 1,000 miles an hour. So
out of gravity, like into space or something, or
just in this room, we would just go through the wall.
It went to like a hole,
just all of a sudden a hole.
God.
I hope I'm in water when that happens.
Right.
Yeah, no kidding.
Or by something soft, something.
Yeah, and of course the closer you get to the North Pole or the South Pole, it actually slows down in rotation because there's not as much distance that you have to travel.
What?
Yeah, so like at the New York latitude, they're only spinning at about 800 miles an hour, whereas the equator you're spinning at 1,000. And it makes sense because if you like get a string with the weight on it and you kind of twirl it up, the end of it's actually going really, really fast, but just like an inch from your finger, it's just kind of barely slowly turning. So it's that kind of concept.
God,
that's
okay.
Cool.
Look, learned a few things.
All right.
What's going on, Mr. Mike? Tell me what you got.
Interesting fact, in the state of Massachusetts, on the books still, but it is not enforced. It is against the law to be broke.
To be broke?
Seriously?
So, seriously, if a cop were to ask you if you have any money on you and you said no, you could be arrested.
No way.
Wow.
What?
Up in Cape Cod on Nantucket Island, they make these baskets out of grass. And on every basket at the bottom, is a penny that's glued there.
Okay.
And that way, if you have this basket, you are never broke. So therefore, you are never breaking the law.
What? So
interesting.
What about the homeless? Like, so every homeless carries a penny.
All right.
It just doesn't sound like they enforce the law. I mean,
enforce it. It's a crazy law.
You know, it's like you're in jail. What are you in here for, homie? Man, I was broke, man.
Yeah.
I didn't have a damn thing on me.
Doing hard time for being broke. Okay. So, guys, there's this movie. There's this movie called Indecent Proposal.
I've seen it. I'm very familiar with it.
Very familiar. How about you?
Is that the one with Drew Barry? I'm not sorry. Demi Moore. Yeah.
Yes. And Woody Allen, I want to say.
Woody Harrelson.
Woody Harrison? Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Have you seen it?
I might have seen it. Sounds familiar.
Let me give you the rundown. So it's a newly married couple, and they go to Vegas, right? Now, they're at the table. I don't know if they're shooting craps. What is that? Craps? Okay.
Yeah.
So they're at the table shooting craps, and across from them is the wealthiest man. Like, he's a billionaire, right? So, I mean, he's eyeing the man's wife. You know, he's kind of looking at her. And what he ends up doing later on is he ends up asking them, you know, if I give you this, they have chips, $1 million chip. So with this chip, you can cash it in for $1 million. He's asked them, you know, if I can have your wife for one night, I'm gonna give you this $1 million chip. So they got together, you know, husband and wife, they were talking about it, and they're like, yes, let's do it. Right? $1 million. You know what I mean? So I mean, it didn't really end well for them. You know what I mean? They ended up, of course, separating, getting back together later. I mean, anyway, regardless of the fact, if that same thing was proposed to y'all, would y'all take it?
Well, I think you actually have to preface that a little bit more before they even got to that point. If you remember the movie, they were like broke.
They were.
You know, she was actually in real estate and he was an architect, and the real estate market bottomed out. So they were just pretty much living off of scraps. I think he said he swallowed up his pride and asked his dad for some money and gave him like a few $1,000s, but they were going to lose their house. I mean, they were in the bottom of the barrel. So
they wasn't in Boston. They would have been in jail.
Massachusetts. But,
oh, man.
But I think it actually depends on each person's situation where they're at. I mean, if you're pretty much like, you know, hey, you know, would you let your significant other, you know, if I have her, if it'll save your son's life? Every situation is different.
Today, I'm talking about right now, with the money you have in your pockets right now, guys. So y'all in Vegas, the same scenario is hit to y'all. Yes or no?
It's going to take a hell of a lot more than $1 million.
More than $1 million?
More than $1 million.
So you got $1 million laying around right now?
What's that?
Do you have $1 million just laying around right now?
That I don't, but...
What's your address?
What would you like?
I would definitely, you'd have to consider it.
Thank you. I would too. Mean, so what would your final answer be? Yes or no?
I think my answer would probably be no.
No? Okay, guys. So, well, y'all both said no. I need your reason for no.
Just for the simple fact that, you know, it's not worth it for me for $1 million to know that, you know, this is the love of my life. And it's just, I'm going to need a hell of a lot more than $1 million.
See, so, I mean, so that's just an unforgivable act to you, period.
It's not unforgivable, but it would always be like, you know, in the back of my mind, like, I mean, did we really have to go here? I mean, maybe better luck would happen to us later on and we wouldn't have to take this route. Now, if the odds were different, you know, like, you know, it's just like, you know, hey, bang my wife for $1 million, then no. But if it's like, you know, hey, I have a cure that will save your wife, I'm just gonna, or I'm gonna.
It's in my penis.
Right. If I had incurable cancer or some incurable disease, and it says, you know, I have the secret, but your wife has to agree to sleep with me, then of course I would be with it, and of course she would be more than willing to do that as well. But for just the sake of $1 million, I mean, $1 million today is not a lot, man. It really is not.
It's a lot closer than being 1,000 there. That's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. But you know, I mean, $1 million today. I mean, it's just too little.
Answer real quick. I gotta get back to you on something.
Right.
So, what was your reason for saying no?
My reason for saying no is I wouldn't be able to, you know, I'd trust her, but then it would be always in the back of my head, like, you know, how did he treat her for the night? You know, what did actually go on? You know, because how am I supposed to?
So you couldn't get past it. You wouldn't be able to get. For instance, if y'all was, the agreement was, look, we're not even going to talk about this. You wouldn't even be able to get past that part.
Right.
But yeah.
Well, because I mean, I'm putting her on the spot, and you know, am I forcing her to do this? You know, is she feeling like I'm, you know, hey, you know.
So if she said yes, would you feel some type of way? Like she's like, babe, this is a good opportunity, would you be like, you know what, it's over, we're getting a divorce?
I'd be like, if we do this, I'd be like, I don't think we'd be able to stay together.
Yeah. So I have to split it. So 500,000. 500,000 is still a lot of money.
Yeah.
So if someone was to take the money, would you say they were just money hungry? If they was like, would you look at them a certain type of way if they were to take the money? You see another couple who did take the money, or would you be like, I understand?
No, I mean, everybody has their own reasons. I mean, some couples might say, hey, give me 100,000 and we're good. Other couples like myself, I'd be like, I'm gonna have to see 10 mil before I even think about it.
10 mil is your number.
Maybe before I even think about it. Before I think about it, that number's at a minimum of 10 mil.
Yeah, it's when you start at 10 mil. What's your number?
I'd say about 10 mil. That would
10
do it.
mil. 10 mil, guys. Whew. God dog. Okay. So I want to ask y'all a question. Now, I want to hear from y'all's perspective. I'm gonna start with you, Danny.
All right.
To you, what does white privilege mean to you, definition-wise, in your words?
Just that there's a certain class of people that have a default advantage over others.
Okay, Mike.
Basically the same. Rich people.
Okay. So is it just rich people? Because it's all types of rich people now. So when we use the word white privilege, is it just rich people, or is it what are we talking about here?
It depends on who's talking about it and how it's used.
Okay.
If it's coming if we're talking about it, I'd assume that you were talking about white, the majority of white people being born with a silver spoon in their mouth, which basically is, they got more of a chance than everyone else. Okay. That's what I'd assume.
So do y'all believe that that's real? Y'all believe in white privilege?
I do.
Think it's a real thing?
I do.
You do?
I don't think it's at the forefront as much as some people make it seem to be.
Okay.
I am going to acknowledge that it is there. It is real, undeniably real. But I don't think I think it's been conflated. I think it's been blown up bigger than what the average person is. Okay. Because here we have us three guys right here. I would say we're pretty much normal dudes on the street. I'd probably say the way we talk amongst each other, that's probably 95% plus of at least the circle of the people in the circle of people I run with and I associate myself with. I don't think it's anything higher than that. I could be wrong, but that's just kind of my own observations.
That makes sense. What about you?
Pretty much agree.
So do y'all think that white privilege only applies to rich white people, or can this white privilege apply to the poor white man or woman?
I think it's actually more on economic status nowadays rather than it is racial.
So,
because let's think about it. If you have, it just got broken in the news recently about these rich Hollywood moms and dads paying off these schools. Who's to say it's not a rich black family doing the same thing? So I think today, more 50 plus years ago, it was more racial class. Today, I think it's a little bit more economic class.
So I'm gonna ask y'all this: do y'all believe that any poor white person has any type of privilege? Are you saying they don't have no privilege at all? It's equal playing field if they're poor or white?
It's pretty much, I'm gonna say, close to equal. They might have a little bit depending on whatever the situation is, but for the majority, if you're looking at someone that's let's say higher class, then they look at poor white people the same as everyone else. They're like, oh God,
it's almost like you're beneath them.
Yeah. Right. And they're uneducated, they're trailer park trash.
So because if you ask some black people, they will actually say that even the poorest white man and woman has privilege. They have advantages, especially when it comes to situations with the police and how they're treated. What do y'all think about that?
It goes on attitude.
Attitude, okay.
And how, if an officer comes up to you and says, you know why I pulled you over? normal white person's gonna say, "No, officer, no, I don't."
Mm-hmm.
You know, a black person, you know, or any other person is gonna sit there, and sometimes they may not get an attitude,
Mm-hmm.
and then others they're like, "Well, you know," and they put the cop on edge. The second the cop hears that attitude in the voice,
Mm-hmm.
he's already on edge. And yeah, it is, you know, I'm not going to say every single cop, but it is, you know, depending on where the cop pulls you over and everything, what kind of car and everything, and the music, they do profile. And they have to, because, you know, there's been videos where showed a cop pulling a guy over,
Mm-hmm.
and he walked up, and you see the cop go, "Oh crap!"
It's too late.
And he turns like this, and you see the back window come flying out, and they had a shotgun,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a criminal in the back who was gonna shoot the cop, and the cop hadn't moved.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just at that second, his head would have been blown off.
So, I mean, is it okay to treat, for him, with him having that experience, it's okay for him to treat every situation that same way? You know what I mean? With the cautiousness, I mean, you know.
They're going to be cautious,
Mm-hmm.
especially if the windows are tinted. And, you know, in a situation like that, you have to look at it from both ends,
Mm-hmm.
and sit there and say, okay, if I'm this cop, I pulled this car over, it's got tinted windows, rap music's playing,
Mm-hmm.
whatever, and there's 5 people in the car.
Mm-hmm.
And there's only one cop.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know, you hear about what happens to the cops. The cops know that you've heard what happens when
Mm-hmm.
they get out of hand.
Mm-hmm. So I have a question, because you did mention rap music. What is it about rap music that comes off threatening?
Well, I think when you have the music that's saying, you know, like, you know, fuck the police and shoot up this and that, you know, I mean, it's already, you know, a lot of that is already kind of aggressive to begin with in manner. I like hip hop and rap just like the next guy, but also too, at the same time, if I'm going to be pulled over by somebody of authority, I'm going to not give that person any damn chance, even if I haven't been doing anything wrong, because I would rather err on the side, you know, like, you know, hey, you know, keys are at the ignition. They're on the top of the dashboard. Both hands are in plain sight. It's just, even if I haven't been doing a damn thing.
Would you recommend? Say, I got pulled over. Would you recommend I immediately turn to country? Like, turn to
Well, no, but
everything gets turned off. Everything gets turned off, you know, just because nowadays, I mean, it's a different world out there than 20, 30 years ago. You know, it very much is. And cops have as much a right to live and go home to their wife and kid than anybody else. Now, they do go into that profession knowing that they are taking these risks.
Yeah, that's a big thing.
But that shouldn't give them or anybody else a free pass to, like, you know, to be aggressive back at them. You know, it's just like, you know, hey, let's both go home safe and sound. Let's go, you know, even if everything's videotaped nowadays, almost all these cops have body cams on them. And I'm not going to sit here and be naive and say there's not some corrupt police forces out there. I mean, obviously there are. And anytime that I would see any corrupt police force or actions of anybody, I'll be the first to defend against that.
Right.
And I think majority of people in today's America would. Now, of course, you're going to have these people that have grown up in redneck woods that they've only known a certain way of life, and they've only been raised into it. I mean, you can't touch those people, but those are like maybe 1-2% of the entire populace. So at the end of the day, lets you know, hey, look, even if you didn't do a thing wrong, just comply. If it goes past further, you're going to have your day in court. And if it shows that you've been wronged, I mean, you could obviously file a lawsuit. And it sucks, unfortunately, that there's a lot of time and money that passes. But at the end of the day, it's like, hey, would you rather go ahead and just, again, err on the side of, hey, let me go home to my wife and kid and stay out of trouble as much as I can? And just like, it may just be as simple as, you know, you showing the cop, like, you know, hey, I'm not aggressive. I'm here to, you know, to do as you wish.
I've seen situations where they show that they're not aggressive, and
Oh,
justice systems.
Oh, yeah.
Would y'all agree the justice system sometimes just doesn't work for black people the same?
I would agree to that as well.
Yeah.
I would agree.
Okay. I thought y'all were going to say, no, it works for everybody the same.
No.
One thing I do want to bring up is, and it was funny, I was thinking about, like, I had a funny feeling we were going to talk about the police and stuff. And I had seen something on YouTube where a black guy had gotten shot and killed by a cop. and he wasn't being aggressive or anything. But the thing is the cop was definitely out of line. You could tell he had, an attitude.
Mm-hmm.
And then the guy had his family there with him, and the officer's like, I need you to step out of the car.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, no, officer, I'm not going to step out of the car. I didn't do anything wrong. Give me my ticket.
Yes.
And he was being nice.
Mm-hmm.
And, the officer was dead wrong in the decision he made. But instead of him looking at the situation saying, is this worth, doing this in front of my family? Or is it worth me cooperating with the cop? Maybe putting him a little bit more at ease and, working with him. Yes, I'm not going to be happy about it, and things are going to, and going, through it and going to the guy's sergeant and, making a complaint.
Mm-hmm.
If he had done that, would he still be alive for his family? And, I understand, you got to stand up and you got to sit there and, at some point put your foot down and say no.
Mm-hmm.
But at another point, you've got to sit there and say, okay, there's laws in place that I know I can go this and this and this. Maybe I won't get everything I want, but I can make the point.
I'm with you on that. So I look at certain situations, for instance, kind of like what you were saying, where he asked him to step out the car. I'm one of my biggest fears when it comes to police is being put in a certain situation. So, other words, seeing a situation where I know, say it's a black woman being mistreated, you know what I'm saying? And I don't want to be the guy, this is my biggest fear. I don't want to be the guy who's just going to be there, a bystander, just watching. I like to think of myself to be a person that would interact, like that would, try to protect that woman. But most black men have that fear of, I can get involved, but who's going to look out for me? You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, because I might be out there wrestling with this cop by myself. There's a whole bunch of people watching.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's to me, that's a tough situation where you have to sit there and watch the abuse. And I think that's a form of slavery within itself, that you have to sit there and watch something like that. So if y'all were put in that situation, I mean, would y'all say to y'all wives or even child, you know what I'm saying, being mishandled by the police, would y'all want to jump and get involved? Like, get your hands off my child, you know what I mean? Or would y'all feel that same fear of, I know if I get involved, you know what I mean?
I think bad for me. I think every situation's obviously different. I mean, if there's just one officer there, and if it's the middle of the night, he's already going to be pretty, I wouldn't say trigger happy or trigger itchy, but I think he's going to be a little bit more on guard.
But it's your child involved, so that may not even matter to you.
If I saw the police officer, like say, for example, body slam my woman or my child, or even you, if I saw him body slamming you, he has the advantage of having that gun and training over me. So chances are one of us is going to get hurt pretty bad, if not dead.
The thing is, are you jumping in? Or are you kind of more conscious, like,
I'm thinking it's kind of adding gas to the fire, really, honestly, to tell you the truth.
So you would have to be the bystander? You have to watch, pretty much?
Unfortunately, because, again, I mean, cops have to protect themselves as well. Even if you have not done anything wrong and you obey those commands, and he still just decides to slam your hood into, your woman's head into the hood of the car. Once you start becoming a combatant in that situation, chances are
you're at the wrong.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but think about that. How does your woman, because this happened on Crash, so how does your woman look at you now? You know what I mean? Because remember on Crash, the officer was searching her, but the way he was doing it was very sexual.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So you just sit there and watch. Like, you got to go home with this woman. And I don't know. Would you want your woman to think that this man has my back? Okay, well, also, I'll throw that. I mean, you want to go home with your woman. So if you do anything different, he could easily pull out that gun, or even some people have died on a taser. Yeah. I would rather err on the side of, I want to go home to my family tonight. So you will deal with that maybe backlash, that side eye she's going to give you. The only, you didn't do anything about it. The only way I'm actually getting involved, if I see her life is being, if I don't jump in, she's going to die. Right. That's about the only way I'm going to be getting in, because unfortunately, like I said, if you jump in, and it's not that I don't want to, it's just that next thing you know, he's going to either pull out a gun
or his buddies are his backup's coming.
But check this out. This is the thing. Ooh. Yeah, so she said, "What if she's calling out to you?
Yeah,
babe, help me."
No,
that's tough.
On that
would be hard.
On that, I'm jumping in then.
Well, see, but this is the thing. This is why I feel like it makes me feel like a slave, because if that was a regular person, same thing, have a gun and everything, you wouldn't. I think you wouldn't think twice about it because they don't have that same authority. So
right.
You would jump in immediately, try to save. But rather, if it's a cop, now you're thinking twice, and that's the part that kind of pisses me off, because I feel like they have too much power. You know what I mean? At that point, you know,
they do have power, but the thing is depending on the individual cop, and I'm going to say about 99% of them, there's the 1% that abuse it, and they'll get what's coming to them. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, cops are pretty honest. It's drilled in the head. Hey, you have a certain way to do this, and they, in the police academy, they drill it into their heads to where it's just there.
And that's what I was going to actually jump on too. Is just I mean, out of how many cop civilian interactions are there per day? Tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands. Mm-hmm. How many of those interactions were treated incorrectly? 1%, 0.5%, 0.1%. I mean, those numbers are so low. Again, that gives absolutely no right for a police officer to abuse the power, or for anybody to take that abuse. But again, at the end of the day, do you want to go home, or are you going to take your life and gamble, and you may die at the scene that day?
What's funny is because I don't know if it's a cultural thing or a race thing or however, but when y'all sit there and say, it's only 1% of the cops. I mean, y'all just ballpark. Y'all don't know for a fact.
Correct.
1% of the cops.
Correct.
It's just the way that y'all speak of them is totally different than the way I would speak of them. I wouldn't dare say 1%, because of what we see. But then I think we had talked about that prior, how it's like kind of a propaganda maybe type of thing, how they keep forcing this to us to make us think a certain type of way. You know what I mean? I mean, it's possible, I doubt this highly, that it's not as bad as it seems. It's not as bad as they're making it seem, but the news has its own agenda as well.
Exactly. And the only reason that I actually speak out in this way, because I have a large number of friends that are actually officers all over the U.S. Mm-hmm. And they're actually, you'll be amazed at the stories that they come home and tell us at the end of the day. Just people are just fucking loony nowadays. I mean, it is
I've heard some.
It is just ridiculous, crazy,
and Massachusetts that are cops.
Yeah,
and me I would not want to take part in that profession, just because I don't want to put myself in that predicament. I don't want to have to put my life on the line, which I have the utmost respect for anybody in law enforcement or even in the military. I mean, they're actually out there in foreign countries, protecting our freedoms and saying whatever we want to say.
What do you think about that, though? Because in the military, they have to take way more steps. They can't just kill, someone in Saudi Arabia. They can't just kill them.
Right.
They have to take so many. Why is it that
rules of engagement?
Right. The rules of engagement is totally different when you're here in America. You know what I'm saying, with the cops and the people.
Because you're dealing in a foreign land, so.
But are we not foreign to each other? You know what I mean? You don't know me, Mr. Officer.
I don't see that.
Yeah, but
I mean, we're all American.
Right. Here's the thing. And this happened was in a neighborhood, mm-hmm. and it was a high class, like not a rich neighborhood, but it was a rich middle class neighborhood. There were a lot of house break-ins. Well, there was this guy outside, and neighbors called the cops saying, "Hey, there's a strange guy outside. We can't get a good look at him. It's dark. Mm-hmm. He's pacing back and forth. He's not acting right." Mm-hmm. The cop came, and there were a couple cop cars. And they told this guy, "Hey, put your hands up. Put your hands up." And he wasn't listening. And he just kept ignoring them like they weren't even there. And the cops, over the loudspeaker on their cars, going, "Put your hands up. You need to put your hands up. We will tase you. We will, bring you down if we have to, but put your hands up." Gave him chance after chance after chance. He reached like this. And the cops are like, "Don't do it. Don't pull your hand away. Put your hands up. We don't want to shoot you." Mm-hmm. And he went like this. Well, he was shot 5 times. There were 5 officers. He each shot once. Mm-hmm. And the thing that made it bad was it was a black guy, mm-hmm. and 5 white cops. automatically everyone said, "Oh, racist." Well, they looked at the cameras on all the cars. This is before they had the body cams, and you could hear them. They're giving this guy plenty of time. He had his wallet, but like the cops said,
we didn't know.
If we waited that second or so, if that had been a gun, he could have killed 2 officers, you know, or even 1 officer, and you know that's not worth it. And the judge had ruled that, you know, with the video evidence, that was the only thing that saved the cops. Because if there was no video evidence, they said all the cops would have been found guilty. And, you know, in war, it's the same thing, is they've got to make sure that it is a terrorist. And the soldiers are told, if you see a threat, whether it's confirmed or not by intelligence, or you can't really confirm it, but you think that that person is a threat and is an immediate threat, you have the right to take them out.
Oh, okay. Question for you guys. Do you guys have to have the talk with your children when it comes to police and so forth? Or was that talk had with y'all growing up?
The talk was had with me growing up, to where it's like, if you're ever stopped by anybody of authority, whether it be a teacher, principal, counselor, firefighter, EMS, police, you know, as long as they're not telling you to do anything illegal or immoral, just, you know, follow orders. With my stepson, I've had to pretty much say the same thing, you know, just look, you know, I mean, if you're questioned by somebody, yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. Be very respectful, follow the orders. Because at the end of the day, you want to be able to go home.
So would you say it's a real basic conversation, kind of on the outskirts? I mean, because with us, it would probably go deeper as to don't answer no questions if you ever get taken down, and it may just get deeper. You know what I mean? Do you think it's just more of a on the surface conversation?
For the most part, at least for us anyway, for me.
And you, I mean, you have a daughter. So, I mean, how's that conversation? Do you have to have that conversation with her?
I had always told her, you know, if a cop tells you to do something, you do it. And I told her, you know, if I haven't had any other talk, like if they're doing wrong in her, but I told her, if a cop is telling you guys to do something and go do something, I said, you may not understand it. I said, but you have to do it, because I said, you don't know what's going on. I said, maybe he knows something that you don't. I said, if you don't listen to him, you could get yourselves in a lot of trouble. That's not worth it.
So, I mean, do y'all have the fears of not making it home, or your children not making it home at night, pertaining to the cops, not just, not the streets or so forth, but do y'all have those fears for yourselves and for your children?
I don't.
I really never even thought about it.
Well, could we say that that's white privilege? The fact that you guys don't have those type of worries?
I'll also say that, you know, the black families I do also are on the same boat as me, that they don't actually think that as well. So the ones that I know. So
okay, so you're saying some of them don't have the same worries.
Correct.
Is that more towards because of the fact of where they live, the general areas, or they just don't? They live in bad areas, they just don't feel that way.
I would say it's pretty lower middle class areas, and you know, that I myself live in, and the people I surround myself around in. Now, if they've had those talks or those worries, they've never communicated that to me. But in some of the other conversations I have had those families that, you know, they have a black 13-year-old or something like that, they pretty much just spat out exactly what I've said, you know, just, you know, be respectful. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Yes, sir. No, sir. Not only with cops, but just with people of authority. Because again, you know, I mean, if you have been wronged and there's witnesses and proof of it, and you prove it, your justice will be seen in court one day, or whatnot. So again, at the end of the day, it's like, how are we going to diffuse the situation? How are we going to be able to not pour fire on a bad situation and make it worse?
Okay. Do you have any fears for your daughter? You know,
just that she comes off pretty naive, like a lot of trust him, but you know, I've kind of installed that in her, is, you know, trust people, but be very leery, you know, and I do worry about it because I'm not there, and her mom has custody, so it is a lot harder. But every day, you know, she's proven to me that she can do it, and when it comes down to it, that the things I taught her and tell her about, she does. She remembers, and she's like, okay, if this situation happens, I know what to do.
So what are you going to do when your child comes to you with these questions about racism, Jim Crow, and have you had that?
Yes.
So you've had to have that racism talk with your daughter.
Yeah.
Oh, I know that's tough. How did that go?
It was hard. And I told her, like, I said,
what was the question she asked you? What was the question person she asked you first?
Why? Well, we had gone to Little Rock, Arkansas, and saw the first integrational school. Went to a museum about the school and the Arkansas 9. I don't remember all the kids' names, but
Arkansas. Well, what are the Arkansas 9?
It's the 9 black students that were the first black students to integrate into a white school.
You said it's middle school,
high school.
High school. Okay.
Ooh.
Yeah, and you know, she was asking me why these people treated these kids like this because they hadn't done anything wrong. They had a right to an education, and in a way, it kind of made me proud that she didn't have that understanding of why, or even, you know, that she was kind of oblivious to it because it meant that I did my job.
Protected it.
Well, not really protecting her, but teaching her that never to judge a person by color of their skin, by their race or anything. Judge them by who they are and how they treat you and others. And so I explained it the best I could, you know, and I said, look, I said, I can only tell you so much because I've never experienced it. I've experienced very little. And I said, but I said, back then, I said, people believe different things. I said, you know, and it takes time to change, and change is not always accepted. I said, and these people that went there and protested against these kids, I said, they weren't ready for it. I said, it's the same as when Hillary ran for president. No one was ready for a female president. Didn't matter how good she was, that you know, she could have had everything going for her. No one was ready for her.
So was she accepting of the story? Did it make her cry? Did it confuse the hell out of her?
She understood it. And I told her, I said, you know, when she was in elementary school, she kind of was treated racially. And it was her and everyone else, like, against the Mexicans. And it was a certain elementary school, I won't name it, but she, like, her teacher was from Mexico and wouldn't help her. And the other students that were Mexican were able to get away with things. And I know Denise had some of the same problems in that school. And, like, at first, you know, my daughter's grades were real bad. And I was like, what the heck is wrong with you? And then when she moved with her mom and they moved into a different area of town, her grades skyrocketed. And I was like, okay. And then she started telling me when she was more comfortable and out of the situation, what was going on. And so she felt it a little, and she kind of understood. And I wanted to reinforce and told her, hey, you can't hate all Mexicans because of how you were treated. You can't look at them like that. You have to judge them by who they are and how they treat you. I said, you know, if they treat you badly, I said, just walk away. I said, you know, you don't need them.
Yeah, that's true. Now, you, Danny, your stepchild, you know, or, you know, he's Hispanic, correct?
Correct.
So, if you had to have that conversation with him, do you think it'll be a you know, kind of a problem because of culture difference? You know what I mean? Like,
well, truth be told, I'm Hispanic as well. I'm half Hispanic.
Okay.
So, you know, so I'm half white boy, half Hispanic. You know, my mom's maiden name is Ortega, so I mean that's about as Hispanic as you could get. So Hispanic that she actually ended up flunking kindergarten when she started school because she didn't speak any English. But she ended up turning around and graduated salutatorian by the time second in her class by the time she graduated high school.
You don't see that being a problem, having that conversation?
No, not at all. Just because the way me and his mom actually interact with everybody, it's like, look, I mean, you're not rich, you're rich or you're poor, but we're going to treat everybody accordingly. You're white, you're black, you're brown, you're Asian or something like that. I mean, no, you're not. We're all in the same boat together.
Right.
And he's kind of followed suit on that. I mean, the people he surrounds himself with are from all backgrounds, rich and poor, all kinds of cultures from Europe, Asia, just all over the world. And he doesn't see anybody else different. So for us to have that conversation, I think it'd be very odd at this point. I mean, he's 16 going on 17 now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How long you been in this man's life? You've been around for a long time.
Me and his mom, just 5 years.
Yeah.
Just 5 years. I actually met him when he was 10 years old. And
congratulations.
Thanks. And, yeah, for us to have that conversation now, I mean, he's already figured it out. He's a pretty smart kid. He's actually on his way, wanting to either become a pilot or he actually wants to be an astronaut is what he wants to do. The kid is just super smart,
You gotta water that seed, man.
Yeah. At first we were kind of worried about him, just because his grades were real bad. He would maybe be passing 1 or 2 classes a semester. And I was just telling his mom, I was like, what I think is that he's bored. He's just doesn't, because all his testing was almost perfect. It's just the homework that was
the issue.
It was the issue. So I said, talk to his counselor and let's see if we put him in some advanced classes to where he's challenged. Yeah. And almost instantly, as soon as he got into those, he's making nothing but A's, and and not just the advanced class. I mean, we're talking about advanced AP. I mean, almost pretty damn well college level courses for starting out in 7th or 8th grade and freshman year in high school.
Is he in high school?
Yeah. He actually just finished his sophomore year already.
Is he doing a high school, college?
No, unfortunately not. I wish a lot more schools would do that. I'm not sure if you're familiar with what he's talking about.
What is that?
So pretty much what these high schools now are doing is you start either in your freshman or your sophomore year.
It's like dual credits or something?
Exactly, for the most part. So whenever you graduate high school, not only do you get your diploma, but you get an associate's degree of Associate of Arts, I believe, already.
When you graduate?
Yeah, when you graduate high school.
Ahead of the game.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so so that's 2 years already gained. That's 2 years of college tuition. You're not having to mess around with it. It's just 2 years already ahead of the game. And now I will say that not everybody is fit for college. Some people they have no interest in college. However, now they have this associate's degree. They're a little bit more marketable. They could actually negotiate for a little bit of a higher salary because you could go, hey, Mr. Boss Man, I got an associate's. I mean, this other guy, he just has a high school diploma. I mean, associates doesn't, that's not going to get you 10 more grand a year, but I mean, it is worth something. And for those who do go on to the next step, some of those classes, not all of them, depending on your major, some of those are actually going to still transfer over into college on some of these courses. Again, even if only half of them transfer, you're still ahead. You're still a year ahead of the game. It's a year less.
I see that. You guys need to look into it.
Yeah.
So I have another question for you guys.
Yeah.
So I have a friend of mine. Me and him are real close, and he, he's a white guy.
Yeah.
And he ended up unfollowing me because of the things that I post. And I posted a lot of things about the past, a lot of videos of current situations, and it made him feel some type of way. He didn't unfriend me, but he unfollowed me.
Right.
And I had got to work, and I was talking to him and some other guys about it, and they were just like, why can't we just all get along? Leave the past where it's at. If we quit talking about it, it goes away. And I'm like, what? So why is it white men don't like to deal with the past or talk about the past or the racism of today?
Now, I'll say that's not all the white men.
Correct.
And I will say that, I thought that was a cop-out move of your friend to unfollow you. I mean, social media has just created so much issues now for people, and it was actually just recently discovered that their algorithms are actually made to actually make us more divisive. So if you're starting to do searches on Facebook or whatever like that, like police brutality, and then the algorithm is going to just show nothing but police brutality shit. So then everybody's thinking like, damn, we need to get these police cops under control.
So that doesn't annoy you sometimes when you keep seeing this over and over and over, or?
It annoys the hell out of me.
It does, but it depends how it's come off. Okay. I will say that I have an individual that I won't say who they are, but I'll have an individual.
You say his name.
But it wasn't dealing with race or anything, but it was extreme politics. You know, he was very farther left than Bernie Sanders, kind of left. I mean, he is off the left. And anytime you'd actually try to just interact with him, like what we're doing here, we're just having civil conversation, he'd be like, you know, oh, no, I mean, you're so wrong. I mean, he'd get real aggressive. And then it got to the point to where, look, on my social media, I don't care if you debate somebody, that's fine. But the second you're disrespectful to somebody, I'm going to give you one warning. Like, you know, hey, you know, that's not the way I run my page here. If you want to do that on your own page, then go screw off to your own page. And this individual didn't abide by it. And I said, you know, look, I warned you some months ago, don't do it again. You do it again, then I'm going to have to remove you from my Facebook. And he pretty much just said, hey, remove me then. So that's what he got. And then I had so many people, once I did that inboxed me and they said, you know, because obviously that's going to be on their feed as well. When there's high touch on a certain subject, it's like at the top of your news feed. And my friends are seeing that. They're like, you know, man, that guy, he was just like, is he okay? Is he like loony? I mean, is there something wrong with him mentally? And I'm like, no, it's just
the guy in the trench coat. Right.
Yeah, and a little too much. And I'm all for passionate about whatever you want to be in, but just do so in a respectful way. And you know, especially if it's on my page, and I respectfully ask, hey, you know, treat everybody else with respect, especially if they haven't disrespected you. I have no problem banning your ass real quick, really quick.
Okay, so you said it does kind of bother you. So.
Yeah, because growing up up north and stuff, it's been thrown in my face all the time. And when it came down here, it was, you know, shoved in my face.
It was even worse in the South.
And you know, I was working at Bill Miller's, and they were calling me in the Spanish name White Devil. They wouldn't call me by my name.
Okay.
And they're like, but you're white, it's okay. And I'm like,
I hate that.
And I was thinking, no, it's not okay. And
so what are they saying? They saying because you guys are okay. Well, explain to me what you said I hate that. So explain more to me what y'all mean.
Because I don't know about you, but I imagine it's the same as a lot of people, not everyone, come off as we can say things about you. We can be, you know, call you cracker and everything. And you're white, but your ancestors were on death, so it's okay for us to do it. You can't do anything about it.
Nah, for
just
anybody.
Because I'm white does not mean you can talk any type of way to
right.
Okay. Do you? So I'm guessing not at all. Y'all don't see at all that this should be allowed and okayed in any type of way.
Well,
unless we're talking about the past.
All right, it'd be like if all of a sudden you saw Jewish people going up to him and going, "Hey, Hitler," to each other. You'd be like, "What the hell?" And you know, everyone would be like, "Hey, that's not wrong."
Cool. Right,
but they're going, "Oh no,
so you want the same respect." Other words.
Well, yeah, and it wouldn't make sense. No one would really understand it if someone said, "Oh, well, I'm Jewish, so it's okay." You know, you'd sit there like,
so they called you a white devil. You ever been called a white devil before?
I've never been called a white devil, no. But I've been called milkweed before.
wait.
Casper.
Milkweed.
Milkweed?
Milkweed. Did you know what milkweed is?
I have no idea.
It's a weed that's green, but if you cut it, there's actually like a white kind of substance that's kind of gooey and stuff like that. That's white in the side. So your outer skin is different than what your blood is on the inside. Or I've been called coconut before, you know, which I'm actually the opposite. You know, I mean, I'm white skinned and you know, brown, half brown on the inside.
I'm just white and white.
Does it make me to the point I'm pissed off and I want to just go Hulk on somebody? No, but I'm also at the same time, it's like, okay, I mean, if I said something derogatory towards you and it's like, you know, come on, the only thing I say is let's be consistent in what we do as best as we can. Now, there's nobody on the face of this world that's going to be consistent with everything they do on a social level, on a theoretical level, on a religious level. We're all going to have some inconsistencies when it comes to that, but just try to be consistent as much as possible.
Okay. I gotta get back with you. Okay, so seeing so what part of the part that bothers you when it comes to people consistently making posts about the past and maybe about the present racism stuff today? Does that part bother you, or
no? I don't mind it being brought up. And actually, I think it was a post that you had posted. It was a while ago, and you were talking about the neighborhoods and how the government was setting up different neighborhoods.
Like was it redlining?
I think it was redlining.
Okay.
And I had posted that, hey, my family was poor. They came from poor, I remember my aunt telling me when the coal trains went by, they picked up all the coal that fell, following the train tracks in order to get heat for the winter. And like my aunt had to quit high school, start working because her dad had gotten injured on the job. And back then, yeah, there was a lot of racism. Minorities had it a lot worse. But white people, poor white people, if you got injured on the job, they didn't care who you were. You were fired that day if you couldn't continue working. And there's a lot of things that have changed over the time. And, my aunt who had quit school, she went back to school, graduated, became a head nurse at a hospital, and was able to retire and, do everything that she ever wanted to do. But she grew up, where when they woke up in the morning, the house was freezing. And she said it was so cold that they all slept together in one bed in order to stay warm, because if they didn't have the coal or the money to get oil, the house stayed cold.
So do you think your aunt's struggle and the black struggle was the same? Or do you
maybe
think,
not exactly the same?
Is it possible do you think it's possible that the black ones could have been worse? Or you're like, nah?
Well, no, I know it was worse. But what I was trying to bring aware is, hey, not every white person is born with a silver spoon. Not every white person has everything just handed to them. And yeah, everyone's struggles are different. I mean, like there was a period of time when I was in middle school. I was in Pennsylvania. I remember the house we were in, the Army was supposed to have given us tons of money because my stepfather was in the Army. They pulled all that money out, and so we had no place to live. And there was a state trooper always sitting in the driveway, because if they could see one of us, they could catch us, kick us out of the house. But if they couldn't find us, they couldn't kick us out. And I remember getting off from the bus, walking 2 blocks down the street, going through the woods, through the backyards, crawling into a window that was left barely open, so it looks like it was closed, and then crawling on the ground so that they couldn't see us, even if they were looking in the windows. And I get mad when people say, "Oh, well, you don't know how hard it is for the blacks," and it's like, well, you don't know how hard I had it. I didn't grow up. When I graduated high school, I didn't get a Mercedes-Benz or a $500,000 car or anything like that. I got $100. That was it, and that's the thing I get mad in. When people bring up the past, I don't mind bringing up the past and talking about it, because it's more information. I like to learn about it, and I like to see, learn how other people's families had it and stuff, and that way I have a better understanding, and I think in a way makes me a better person.
So it kind of sounds like in an informative and educational way, is what you're saying.
So do y'all think if we stop talking about it, it will go away?
It'll never go away.
It'll never go away.
I'm glad y'all understand that. I'm so happy to hear that.
It never will, but I think the more that we actually do talk about it, like if it's the main thing, it's just going to keep dividing everybody.
Okay, so I have a question. There's some black men out here today that do not and will not date black women because of attitude reasons and all these other reasons. What do y'all think about that? If you hear a black man say, "I don't date black women." Now, what would y'all say to those men who sit there and say, "I don't date black women"?
They actually have probably been around them, and they think that they're just.
That's their opinion.
It's an opinion.
What's your opinion on them making that statement? If you were right next to them, would you be like what would your thought process be?
I wouldn't have a thought about it really, honestly, at all.
So you would just be like,
I would just
I know you would say something under your breath about that person.
I'd be like, I would be like, man, he probably had some crazy experiences. It'd be no different than me saying I'm never going to date a white girl because they're just crazy and they just want to spend my money or whatever like that. I want a Latina. They're hardworking, good in the home, and for many other reasons. They're hardworking as well too. And
so what is okay? Which going off of what you're saying is cool, but what if the men that are bashing those women in the process of, like I said, oh, they got bad attitudes. They got
so what you're pretty much doing is talking like a Tommy Sotomayor kind of thing, to where he's
I have no idea who that is, but I'm pretty sure
have you? Yeah, I mean, he pretty much is like, I will never date.
So what's your thoughts on that? Are you like, oh, those have been a week, or that's what I'm saying? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
To me,
you don't think twice has nothing to do with me? I don't care.
Some of that, but also too, in my mind, I think, okay, they've had maybe some bad experiences with them, to where they're like, I mean, every single person that I've dealt with has been nothing but trouble for me.
They don't want to deal with no black women. That doesn't make you type of way. Like,
they just don't want to take that chance, because maybe over the past 10 years, that's all they have. I mean, I've dated women of color, and I've never had an issue with them.
Sit there and say no, bro, because you was just saying I wouldn't judge all these people off of this one person,
right?
So why would you not keep that same thought when you hear him say, I'm not dating no black women because of this?
Again, like I said, most of it's going to be like, okay, I mean, that's not my business. If that's what he wants to do, then hey, and there's some black women that says, I'm not going to date a black guy at all either. I'm going to stay to the white boys or the Puerto Ricans or the Mexicans, I mean, so it could be flipped both ways.
But that doesn't make you think any type of way about that person who's not interested in their
None at all.
time?
None at all.
Even if they're talking bad about them?
None at all.
What about you, Mike? If you heard a black man sit there and say that, what would your thought be?
I'd kind of laugh.
You was like, why? Do you agree? Or
well, no, I wouldn't agree. I mean, I'll say this: black women are very loud, and they're very opinionated, and they're gonna tell you how they feel no matter what. They don't care the situation. I mean,
whether they're wrong 100%,
right?
They're gonna argue it till they're right. But you know what? That's just not black women. I've had some Hispanic women. They do the same damn thing.
Hispanics are
they hot. They hot. They a little spicy.
But like every culture has their own like ways. And for a black guy to say, "Oh, well, I'm never dating black women because they're grouchy, they're always loud, and everything else," I'd be like, "Okay, whatever."
Would you date a black woman?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind. I mean, I've dated Brazilian. I married a Brazilian, and my daughter's half Brazilian, half white. And it's funny because you see her, she looks white, but when she gets a tan, you're like, what, Mexican?
That's like my niece. She catches the sun so quick. Yeah. She looks like, a little Hispanic. So then,
Would you date a black woman?
I have.
Oh, you have?
Yeah, I have in the past. Like any other experience with any other woman. Yeah, and honestly, it would have went farther. It's just that, she had an opportunity with schooling and another job in another state that she had to move away, or else who knows? I mean, how much farther it could have gone. I mean, she was a great girl, had a good head on her shoulders. I mean.
Okay, so what are some of the best attributes y'all can think of to black women? Y'all's what's some of the best ones? What attracts you the most to them?
Are we talking about emotionally or physically?
Whatever first comes. I want to go with the first.
The first thing that's going to come is physical.
It's physical.
That ass. That ass.
So I mean,
I'd have to say like the ass is definitely one, but when I would see their face, and this goes for any woman, it's got to be the face. If the face is beautiful, I don't.
So the face goes above the body.
Yeah,
in a sense.
Yeah,
I mean, you still have to have a nice body. I mean, if you're disproportioned or like, then it's like, but I'm still gonna want to get to know you because you have a gorgeous face and everything.
Okay.
And I don't care how good looking you are. If you have a crap attitude or you just crazy, I don't care how fine or rich you are. I mean, I'm not gonna deal with you.
So that attitude problem, is that just with black women?
Oh, hell no.
No.
Hell no. I dated
every woman.
I've dealt with some Puerto Ricans that will just gut you in your sleep. They vicious. Yeah.
On the highway.
Forgot about old Lorena. That's been a while ago. And that's the fucked up thing too. It's like, when if some woman would, some guy would cut her breast off, it's like, let's go ahead and put the country down to a halt. Let's let there be a moment of silence. Bill Burr actually said this, in one of his stand-ups where I'm getting this from. Let's go ahead and create some kind of ribbon with the most girlish color. If a guy gets his nuts or his dick chopped off, it's just funny.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
You just make fun of it, you know, and that
think
sucks.
That's the guy that got the ultimate revenge.
Yeah.
After everything was over, he became a porn star.
Oh, really?
There was one like that where she had cut it off, and she was found not guilty, and they said it was okay, and he had another one attached or something, I don't know, but he became a porn star after that. So now he was making twice as much money, having great sex with these women. And I'm like, damn, she's got to be sitting there so pissed off because she went to ruin his life. She made it better.
So, guys, in Detroit, Michigan, just recently they had a Klans rally. Now, with freedom of speech and so forth, do y'all think that it should be legal for the Klan to be able to do their thing today?
No matter how much I hate it, I hate racism.
Right. They have the constitutional right.
They have every single right as anybody else. I mean, hate speech, unfortunately, is protected free speech. Unfortunately, no matter how much anybody hates it or dislikes it, which I hate all the above, no matter what race it comes from, whether it be black, white, Asian, Hispanic, whatever, I don't like any of it. However, in this country, I mean, we do have freedom of speech. And once you actually take that freedom away, I mean, Canada, they can't say whatever they want to say. For example, like transgender people right now. Jordan Peterson, he actually got fired from being a professor for not calling a student, either he or she, how they felt. He got fired for that. I mean, and ironically, that's how he's making his money now. The school fired him and let him go. And then he's actually probably worth 10 times more than what he was.
Well, but hate speech and hate groups are illegal here in America, correct?
KKK, I think they're around.
Exactly.
They're still around. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if it's illegal. I think if they partake in illegal actions, then yeah, that's.
Yeah, but it's something you can't. It's something. I remember seeing a video where these a white man and woman, they were in a truck and they were waving the Confederate flag, taunting. It's something to it. You can't. I forgot what the exact words, but you can't do anything racially. They go to jail for that shit. 'Cause I remember seeing these black teens beat up the white kid. And they went to jail for that too. I forgot what the law is, but you can't do that. It's like a hate crime.
You have the freedom to express your own opinion.
But you can't practice it or something. You can't practice
you
hate.
Can, like, if I wanted to fly the Confederate flag, I can. Whether it pisses you off, as long as it's on my property. I can spew hate speech, but if it gets to a point of where it's like a public disturbance or it's causing trouble, then the cops have a right to come in and say, hey, yeah, you have this right, but you're doing this.
You crossed the line.
Right.
You've crossed the line. You need to stop.
How is that? How is it that hasn't hit the Klan yet? Because I mean, the Black Panther Party, they dismantled. You know what I'm saying? But yet you have the Klan.
Well, all right, because and this is gonna sound totally
say it, yes,
racist.
Give it to me.
and I'll give an example is a lot of white people, all right, they think before they act. They figure out, they look into what they can and cannot do. Because if there's a law that says I can spit at an officer, but as long as I'm spitting in his direction but not towards him, I'm not spitting at him.
I already see where you're going with this.
And like the Black Panthers, they didn't really look into the laws. They acted. They said, hey, no, we're going to do this. And then, the cops like, hey, no, you can't because of this. And, they were more loud. Like they were the squeaky wheel. So they got more attention.
So you mean like the Black Panther Party was more, they were more out there than, would you say the Klans or?
Right. The Klan's always been out there, but they're quiet about it. They don't bring attention to themselves.
You see, I don't know. I would have to disagree with that.
When they do a rally and stuff, oh yeah, they're going to bring tons of attention.
Yeah, but you got situations like when they blew up that church, AME church with them little girls. I mean, they are not quiet. You know, they're damn near terrorists. You think about it.
But the thing is when that church blew up, they went out. They said, "Hey, we're happy about it." Blah 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 blah. But there's no proof that those people did
so
it.
That's what you mean by being slick and
right.
And slide.
The same as
there was no proof. Like, we knew they did it. There's no proof.
Right. The same as 9/11. When 9/11 happened, almost every single terrorist group that hates America, like, hate it to the point of where, you know, if you told them, hey, kill 200 million Americans and, you know, you'll be in heaven, they'd do it without a second thought. They all called the FBI and said this was not us, because the Taliban, bin Laden, had crossed a line that had never, ever been thought of to cross on that. And to bring another example, like, and this is just what I've noticed in my life, is Black people tend to get very aggressive fairly quick. And I'm going to say hot-headed. They don't.
Why? Why do you think that is?
Well, it's how they're raised, how the history is. And I was talking to one of my friends, and I work at B.A.M Cement, and a lot of them are convicts out there. And this guy, he was in jail, and he got into it with another guy, and they were both Black. This other guy's like, I'm gonna beat the crap out of you, and he was telling me that it was a while ago. I had told him, hey, you know, you have to think before you do something, because that's where you're getting in trouble. You're not stopping and thinking. I said, and that's why, like, I said, I wouldn't get in myself in that situation, because I'd know, okay, hey, no, this is going too far. And he was telling me he stopped because he said, he goes, I was going to pick up a rock and start bashing him. And he goes, but I stopped. He goes, and then I looked around, there's all these people watching me. And my boss comes up. They told the guy, hey, go home. They had already called the cops because he made a death threat against me. And he goes, they said, okay, hey, this is what's going to happen. And I was like, okay, this is what I need to do. I need to walk away. And he goes, now everything's in my favor. So if anything happens to me and he attacks me or something, he's going to go to jail. And he said, if I hadn't stopped and thought about it, he goes, like you were telling me to, he goes, I'd be in jail. And he goes, and I'd miss my son, my family, and everything else. And he goes, everything I worked hard for, I would have lost.
I'm glad you actually got through to him. I'm going to ask y'all this. What do y'all think Black people's problem is into why we can't unite or get along and so forth? What would y'all solution be? Or first of all, why do y'all think that is? And what would y'all solution be?
I think part of it actually starts in the home, you know, I mean, fatherless homes, you know, I mean, you need two parents to raise a kid. I mean, when you have a single mom working, you know, 2 jobs just to even put food on the table, nobody's supervising these kids, you know, I mean, and so they're just running amok around and kind of like, you know, just do as they will a lot of the times. So I think the way to actually fix it, not just in the Black community, but any community, you know, I mean,
we're just talking specifically about the Black
community. But in this instance, I think it starts in the home to be able to fix that.
So what will be your solution? Fathers being present?
Exactly. You know, because a lot of times, I mean, daddy bounces, you know, it's like, you know, hey, I mean, I'm not going to stick around, you know, I mean, it's, and gosh, who said this? I think it was on Candace Owens' podcast when she was on Joe Rogan. Had actually spouted out some numbers, but it was something like 75% of fathers are not involved in their kids' lives in the Black community. That is a high number. I'm like, so out of 4 children, 3 of those are fatherless. So you only have 1 that has a mom and dad at home.
So you think that has a lot to do with the lack in the unity?
I think that has
having a complete unit, pretty much.
Exactly, you know, and
the prison system,
that again, but you know, but you know, what's the group of people right now that is actually just kicking everybody's ass right now?
Hispanic community.
Nope.
Mexicans, huh?
No.
Jewish?
The Asian community.
Oh yeah.
The Asians, you know,
my tongue.
what do they practice first and foremost in the Asian community right now?
What is it?
Family unity.
Family first.
Family first. Second is education.
Well,
that's why they're
education is right up there with family.
Yeah, and not only the Asian but also Indian. You know, families coming over from India. You know, I mean, and the the two common things, the two common denominators of those groups of people are family unity and education. And I think that's missing from not only the Black community, but now the Hispanic community, and even now the white community as well. I mean, if you see the statistics, I don't have them in front of me right now, but they're kicking the tails off everybody.
What about you? What do you think that the problem with the unity, and how could we get the unity?
It's the history. Like a lot of families, a lot of the older generation aren't willing to.
They aren't buying in.
Well, they're not willing to drop that how they feel about cops, about white people, and so they spread it to the kids, and not intentionally going, oh, you got to go hate white people, but telling them, oh, this is what happened to me, and this is what's gonna, and the thing too is America, and I call it cowtown, like pulling down the statues, changing the names of the schools and stuff is ridiculous. Everyone says, oh, this is racist against me. This is this. Well, use it as a learning tool. Use it to teach. I mean,
well, see, we have situations like you said with your daughter where you weren't teaching. So what happens if your daughter never would have asked you? Now she would have been oblivious. And then what happens with that is history repeats itself. You know what I mean? So we can say that, but
the thing is,
gotta take responsibility to teach.
You have to take responsibility to teach. Kids will always ask a question. If they see a statue of Robert E. Lee, they're gonna say, well, who was he? Right. Why is there a statue of this guy? Now, Robert E. Lee, a lot of people say, oh, he was a very racist general. Well, he wasn't. Yeah,
he was a traitor, though.
By definition, he was.
By definition, yes. But if you looked at how he lived his life, when Lincoln asked him to lead the Union Army, it wasn't because he didn't agree with the North. He said, look, my state has asked me, and I have state pride, and I have to do with what my state is. And back then, the country, every state had their own pride. It's like Texas pride, and a lot of people don't understand that slavery was only like it was part of the Civil War, but it wasn't the whole entire thing. The Confederate flag was not designed for slavery. It was a flag designed to show the separate of America.
So you guys didn't agree with the taking down of the statues, I'm guessing?
No. I think they should have been left up.
So you can't see it from other people's views of why they wanted it taken down? I mean, because they say in Germany they don't have no statues of Hitler.
There's a difference there, because
they have the ovens up. They haven't torn down any of the ovens.
Correct. But also too,
the camps.
But Hitler killed how many millions where there was not millions killed in the Civil War? Well, if you totaled everybody in all the Civil War, maybe 500,000, maybe. Yeah. And I mean, in World War II, when Hitler was killing the Jews, I think he exterminated like 2.53 million Jews.
Well, they had dump trucks dumping the ashes.
Yeah.
So what sounds like what y'all saying is the numbers numbers matter. So you're a little racist, numbers not racist? Like
no, I wouldn't say that. It's just from my research, most everybody in the South didn't own slaves.
Correct.
It was a very small percentage of it. A lot of people then in that instance were like,
they participate though. They know they didn't own it. They participated in the culture of
it. They did, and it came.
Was the culture back then.
Yes,
that was
unfortunately.
Yeah, but the thing is, this is my thing about that. With that being said, this is so true. That is the culture back. That's the temperature back then. But but you can't say that because there's other people who didn't agree. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, that's where the change came, and that's the thing is. When change happens, it's people realizing, hey, what we're doing is not right.
Yeah, and look at homosexuality.
And it takes generations.
Yeah, homosexuality today, I mean, it's almost the same battle in a sense. You know what I mean? It's because they're different. You know what I mean? They're looking at someone different, so they treat them different. They're getting discriminated different.
Well, I mean, back when I was in high school, if people were getting beaten up because they would come out of a club that was known to have gay people. They'd be like, "Oh, you're gay. You came out of a club," and they'd beat the crap out of them. Or if they came out of an HIV clinic, you know. And the thing is change. You know, there's those people that just hate it, and they're gonna fight it. But when everyone gets on the same boat and says, "Hey, you know, this isn't right. This is wrong. We need to do this, and something needs to happen," then change happens. And yeah, you're going to have people that fight against it, always, no matter what. The thing is, you learn from it.
So you don't think taking down that statue is a sort of a change?
Well, taking down a statue...
It's just taking down a statue, to be honest. It really is just, it's just like a...
It'd be like saying,
material.
okay, well, we need to tear down, like, we need to take down Mount Rushmore because all those presidents owned slaves.
Yeah.
All right. And then
so
saying,
it's like pick and choose.
Well, we need to take down the Lincoln Memorial because he had slaves in the White House. We need to do this. It becomes, what point do you sit there and say, enough is enough? And like in Germany with the Nazis, the German people live right next door to the Jewish people that were in those camps. And they live peacefully because they respect one another. They understand each other. Each side, has a little bit of hatred for each other. And the Jews have a little bit more than the Germans do. But at that time period, if you look at what the Germans were going through, the world was making them suffer. Hitler was like a shining star to them. They saw hope. They saw the future. And so it was very easy to turn a blind eye. But when they found out what was going on in these camps, then it was, they started
same thing happened
saying,
in America when they actually seen what they were doing.
Right. And the thing is it's hard to sit there and, I mean, if you have a whole community or a whole country that sits there and goes, we're doing this, and you go, well, I think that's kind of wrong. It's hard when you're that individual
to make that change,
to go against the current. And tearing down the statues, changing the names of the schools isn't going to change history. I would rather bring my kid to the statue and say, this man, this Robert E. Lee, he fought for the side that, you know, he felt. It was his own opinion. Did he fight for slavery? And you know, and a lot of people sit there and go, well, anyone who fought on the South Side was fighting because they wanted slavery to continue. Well, no, but in a way, yes, because that was part of the economy. Slaves were in the economy. And back then, I mean, you take slavery and you wipe it out completely, the economy is going to crash. And that had a lot of fear.
So with that being said, though, do y'all think reparations should be given?
No.
Not this far.
I mean, because you just said pretty much without having these slaves, our economy would have been.
Well, the Southern economy.
The South.
Oh, Southern economy. Okay.
And the thing is you look at it like, all right, let's say an alien race came down and said, hey, we can give you this new device, but you can never use gas, coal, or anything else to power any of your houses or anything else. And we can give you this device. It'll give you free energy, everything. Well, what about the millions upon millions of people around the world that work in those industries?
They're out of jobs.
Right. So what do you do with all those millions of people that are out of jobs? No other job is going to take them because they're full. Now you got starving people. You got a country that sits there and goes, well, all right, yeah, hey, great idea, but we can't implement it like you want us to.
But we had that happen with black folks, you know what I mean? And it didn't matter. It was, oh, well, they won't have jobs. It is what it is.
Well, that was at the end of the Civil War.
Right.
And the thing is, the South looked at it and they said, they saw that presented. They saw a lot of things that Lincoln wanted to change. And they said, no, you're going to destroy our culture, our way of life. And it wasn't because they were like, oh, it's slavery. You know, Lincoln wanted to industrialize, bring more industry and do a whole bunch of stuff. And they're like, no, we have plantations. We have this life. We like this life, you know. And so that compelled with everything else that was going on, is why they split off from the U.S. Because they said, no, we're not going to do this. You know, you're going to kill us. And they saw it as a
so
Lincoln, literally, like if someone came in and said, okay, you're not going to live in your house anymore. You're going to live in this 2x4. They saw a change, and they said, we can't handle that. And so there, and besides slavery, there was a lot of other things that led to the Civil War. And a lot of people who fought in the Civil War, I mean, their families were split up both sides on the different views, but there were a lot of Southerners that believed that blacks should be free and have jobs and stuff like that. And the thing was they still believed in their state, and they believed in the other things the states were fighting for. And so to tear down a statue without looking into it, I mean, Robert E. Lee, after the war, he worked with the United States Army again. He was, I believe he was pardoned. He helped rebuild the country and build bridges to help mend the South and the North and make them work together and have them work together. He did this all after the war, but no one looks at that because they say, oh no, he fought in the South, he was racist. And you can't just judge a person by what their action is. You know, there's always a reason, and you have to look into it before you judge them.
So why do y'all say no to reparations? Do y'all agree that this country was built off the backs of black people?
No. Some of it. I think some of it was.
Some of it?
Some of it. Some.
So, and you say no completely.
Well, it was built, all right, I have ancestors that, you know, I look at, and they were busy building high-rise and stuff, and I haven't looked way back, but I know.
I'm talking, you know, way back, 1600s, you know, was it 1619 when they landed here, 13 with the original 13 colonies? So I'm talking talking way back then.
Back then, like, everybody who was there was doing their part to build the country up, make the country powerful. I mean, you want to talk during the Revolutionary War, all right? There was, I think, one country that accepted the American dollar. Now, we were a country that was considered just farmers by the most powerful country in the world. They had more men, more firepower, more everything. And we defeated them. We're the only country that has actually been able to defeat
the battle with Britain?
Yes. All right. That's when America started getting built. America was built by everybody who lived in that time period.
I mean, when you say farmers, were they farming their own lands?
Yeah.
Back then, because there was nobody else to farm for them. I mean, they were scrapping it.
But slaves came over. I'm saying slaves was
after
here.
that. But after
slaves
that,
were here in 1619. The slavery started. It started. They had them.
Yeah. There were slaves, but the thing was also back then and during the Civil War was you till your own fields. Take pride in it. Yeah, you may have the money to have slaves, but you're still out there. You're still being a part of it.
Okay, so help me more.
Reparations.
I'm trying to get on how y'all say that this country wasn't built on. You say not on black people alone, and you say not. You kind of say not at all. So
well, no, everybody.
I gotta see. Okay, you're saying so the same thing. It was built from everybody.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, that'd be like a Native American coming in and saying, well, I want reparation from everybody.
They did.
Because you stole my country.
They did.
You wiped out my people and everything.
But they got that, did they not? And free schooling.
Not much.
Correct. But they got something rather than you have another group.
But also the thing is they have to be a certain percentage of Indian. Like if I'm, let's say, 30% Indian, I'm not qualified. I don't know what the actual percentage is.
Unless you're Elizabeth Warren.
That's my family. That's what they told me.
Yeah. But the thing is
1064th or whatever.
Yeah.
That's too funny. That's the one he be calling Pocahontas. Is that what you be calling Pocahontas?
Yeah. The thing is everybody built America. Slaves were a big part of it. Yes.
See, I just can't agree with everybody built America. Like Everybody didn't build America. Okay, if you can sit there and say off the top of your head,
do you know
what was built by
the Irish claimed to build the skyscrapers?
Yeah.
New York, Boston, all those high rises.
I can almost guarantee they probably got that idea probably from somewhere else. What do you think? You think they came up with this idea and everything was even before the skyscrapers? How'd they even get to that point? You know what I mean? To even be able to get there to the skyscrapers.
Someone's always come up with some idea. Mm-hmm. And the thing was that was the Industrial Revolution.
But we also know that a lot of things of the past were stolen and taken from black people, and white people said, "Oh, this is mine. I patented."
That's actually been going on since the dawn of time. It's just not with black people. That's gone worldwide. I mean, conquest.
Well, I guess if we're specifically only talking about America,
then, okay.
You know what I mean? So even with us knowing this,
people that have had good ideas, mm-hmm. In the past they've had it stolen. Mm-hmm. I know there's a lot of things that I heard that a black person had come up with mm-hmm. that was stolen. Mm-hmm. And the thing is that, it happened. But it didn't just happen to black people. It wasn't exclusive.
Well, in America, it was in America, though. That's why I'm saying we're specifically talking about America.
Yeah.
Right. That's what it was. I'm saying in America because we're speaking on just.
It wasn't exclusive to us.
No.
But we got.
Okay. Right. Because I mean, Irish and so forth, they were considered almost the same level as us at that point as well. So maybe they did steal some things from them as well. But like I said, I look at the cotton gin. I'm like, there's no way a white man made cotton gin. Why would he make something to make it easier? You know what I'm saying? No, right. I have slaves. Why am I going to come up with something to make it easier?
Well, because you could get more product, more money.
I'm getting just as much good product with these people working. You know what I mean? Why do I need to think of more? All that means is more people over here to do it.
All right. With cotton gin, mm-hmm. Yes, I did hear that it was a black person. That
that only makes sense. I'm not saying it's true, but that only makes sense.
The thing is if you look at it money-wise, mm-hmm. All right, I'm a farmer. Let's say I have 6 fields mm-hmm. that I have slaves picking. Mm-hmm. And this person comes up to me and says, hey, on one of your fields, I want the cotton gin to do this, my machine, and let's see how much more productive cotton we get or how little more cotton. So I let them, and I find out it's faster. It's faster and it gets more cotton. Like after it's done, I send my slaves out there. They come back with like maybe a bag.
Yeah, but this cotton gin costs money.
But the slaves don't. I've just done a whole field mm-hmm. in a day, mm-hmm. where it takes the slaves 2 or 3 days. Mm-hmm. So now I'm rich. I have tons of money. If I buy 15 more fields and I stretch myself, but I have a cotton gin that can do in one day what mm-hmm. is taking 2 or 3 days, mm-hmm. I'm making more money because now I can get my cotton to the faster. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Therefore, I'm getting the better price. Mm-hmm. And the machine's doing a great job.
It is.
It's not missing that much. Mm-hmm. So I'm saving money.
But what will cause the white man to even think, to even create that?
Progress.
Progress?
Why create? Why?
If it's not broke, don't fix it. Like, what will make you think, I want something to go faster?
The automobile?
Huh? Why black man created the automobile. I don't know if y'all knew that. I'm telling y'all.
I don't know about that.
I'm telling y'all. Ford was the first to mass produce, but the black man came up with the vehicle first.
That's the first I've heard of that one.
I'm telling y'all.
I don't know about that one. I'd have to.
I don't know if it's Latterman. I don't know. I got to think of what the man's name is. But yeah, Ford was just the first to mass produce, but the black man created the first vehicle, like the first vehicle.
Well, you're talking first vehicle in America or the world?
Well,
because in the world there were already types of engines mm-hmm. that ran not fast, not great, but they ran on steam and coal, like a train engine
or ship. Okay,
right. The thing is you always have people that are going to want to better themselves. I mean, horses were great. I mean,
It's not broke, don't fix it. So why create the automobile?
The horses, horse and carriage and stuff. The thing is what can get done faster?
Right.
I mean, I drove to Arkansas in 8 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I did it on my Google by walking.
Mm-hmm.
It would take me, like, I think it said 8 days walking.
Ooh.
And so you look at that, and whoever created the automobile,
mm-hmm.
their thought was, hey, I can get to a place faster.
Oh, yeah, especially because the train was probably made by that time. So they were like,
oh, yeah, the train's been around for a while.
Yeah, that probably kicked. What's the other way we can get there faster?
Right. Trains can't go everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you get to different places?
Mm-hmm.
And automobile came up. Ford, he looked at it and said, well, I want everyone to have the car.
Mm-hmm.
So he figured out how to make it cheap.
Mass produce it. Yep.
Mass produce it. And yeah, he had the first assembly line.
It's true.
And made millions off
Millions. Still in that black man's idea. Oh.
But I would say to anyone that, like when you talk about it, I know there's no like, there's no hatred,
mm-hmm.
And I know you're talking about it and it's what you
mm-hmm.
believe. But to anyone who has the like, oh, well, the white man steals everything.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's in the past. Get over it.
Oh, there we go. Well, that goes with what I was saying earlier.
But it's the same as
how do you expect someone to get over it? You know what I mean? Per se.
Well, I mean,
with it still happening today, it makes it even harder to get over.
The thing is don't get like, you don't have to forget about it.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is like, all right, let's say there was a black man that created an automobile. Mm-hmm. Are you related to that guy in any way, shape, or form?
No, but the fact that people don't know about him is a problem.
But here's the thing. All right. Yes, no one knows about him. Mm-hmm. Is there any proof that you can show that he created the first automobile?
I think there is. But
Rodney says his name is C.R. Patterson.
C.R. Patterson?
That's the first I've heard of this.
Where you seeing this? I haven't seen no comments on Oh, okay. C.R. Patterson, okay.
Okay, I'll have to look that up.
The thing is for now, these days, I mean, I could sit there and say that my aunt came up with, a drug 50, 60 years ago, but they didn't use it back then for cancer, but now it helps cure cancer.
It's same thing with Viagra. Viagra was used for something else, and they found out, oh.
Yep.
Yeah. But the thing is, did she come up with it or invent it?
She did.
Or was it already there and she used it for something and saw?
No, she invented it, but it come to find out it could be used for something else.
Then, do I have, then I look at it and say, well, there's no proof that she did it. Why?
Because she was a woman. If it's pertaining to black folks, we can't own nothing. And if we're owned, then whatever we create is given to our owners,
Yes, I agree with back then.
Mm-hmm.
Also, but back then, women weren't allowed to do a lot of things. If a woman can't, I mean,
so say a woman created
in the Civil War, there was Susan
B. Anthony.
I was gonna say Susan B. Anthony, but I think I'm wrong about the name. But she was the first woman to come up with the Red Cross, to come up with running out onto the battlefield after the battle to go and help the soldiers. She helped the soldiers from both sides live because the thing back then was, oh no, you wait till the carriage comes, picks them up, throws them in a pile, and then dumps them on your doorstep. And she said, no, if I can treat them out there and stop the bleeding and everything else, they'll live longer.
Right.
We can have more soldiers. Not her thought, but then the army was like, hey, that's kind of a good idea.
So they took it.
Right. But the thing is, she created the Red Cross. No one really knows that. But it's because she's a woman, though. And the thing is, have pride in the knowledge of what your people have done. But the thing is after a certain point, you have to sit there and just drop it. Because it becomes mute. It's the same as JFK shooting, the assassination of JFK. There's so much evidence that they've never released. It was slated to be released 50 years after. But when that 50 years came up, it was decided that no, people are still interested in it. It would affect things. It would affect how different people saw things.
Mm-hmm.
So now I think it's slated to be released like 150 years from now. Mm-hmm. So on that time period, there's going to be people go, wow. I'll be like, okay.
Right.
And that's the thing is, and I mean, it's horrible to say, but unless you have hardcore evidence proving that they had built it, that they have the patent and everything else.
What evidence don't mean nothing, because we can look at Egyptians and look at their statues and they look like black people, and yet and still with that proof, they're like, God. When you look at not American Gods, but you look at Gods of Egypt, the movie, they were white. It's like it doesn't matter. It makes you feel like it doesn't matter.
In movies and stuff,
it's just
you can't like that movie was probably a low budget movie.
No. Or, I think it's Gods of Egypt or whatever. It was a high class movie. It was good.
You're talking the one with the guy that one god loses his eye.
Yes.
Okay.
That's it.
All right. Yeah, that was a great movie. But the thing is you have to pull people from wherever you can pull them. You can't go to Egypt and say, okay, we're gonna hire everybody here who has no acting experience.
No. But I'm just saying those original people were black though. They didn't have to be Egyptian. Those are all American people anyway. All those actors were American anyway. You know what I'm saying? They were just portraying. But the point is, it becomes a thing when, like you were saying, you being proud of, like, you know, but when you have people whose stuff has been stolen or whose stuff is not out there, like that woman with the Red Cross, what is it a woman to be proud of when I'm just learning today that a woman helped make Red Cross?
Same here.
You know, so it's the same thing with black folks. It's just, at some point, I mean, I hear what you're saying, but I guess if we were actually taught everything, then at that point, maybe we could, because I guess I'm learning new things today.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's hard for me to let it go. If I was taught this stuff in school, then maybe at that point, it could be something that could be let go, but I can't find new information now and be like, damn, I didn't even know this about myself, you know? So, I mean.
Well, the more you know, I found out when I moved down here, I met another guy named Mike Turnbull. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh,
he's
cool.
Black.
No.
I know a white dude who's Turner. I'm like, whoa.
He was Chinese.
Was your people?
No, he was actually white, you know. But no, he was telling me that the Turnbull name is actually, I believe he said it was an Irish name, but it was given to a guy who saved the king's life. And what it was a bull had gotten loose back in the days, and he stepped forward, and as the bull was charging towards the king, he grabbed the bull by the horns and turned the bull. And he said originally the name was Turn a Bull, and then over the years the family just shortened it to Turn Bull, and that's where the Turnbull name came from. I haven't been able to really look it up.
Now, do you got proof on that, sir? Do you got proof that he grabbed the horns?
But the thing is I never knew that. I was always told I was Italian, Canadian, and British. And that's why I tell people, I'm as white as you can get, you know. And but now it might be Italian, Canadian, and Irish.
But does that make you feel a sense of pride in a sense? Like you just learned something new. You just learned that he grabbed the bull by the horns.
Horns, literally.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Who is he, Paul Bunyan? Like,
it's cool, and it's something that when I have the funds and I don't need it anywhere else, I'm gonna definitely look it up and look up my family heritage more. But you know, it was cool. He was telling me about it and everything, and you know, but there's also different families. Like I know my father, who's a Turnbull, of course, is from England. His family's from England. So it's like, how did the name go from Irish to an English name? You know, and they may be different ways. You know, but that's the stuff. Like when you find something out about that, let your kids know. And you know, the thing is have the pride in it, and say, hey, yeah, you know, this is what we believe. Okay. But don't sit there and then unless you can really prove it, because then it just becomes noise.
Right. Yeah.
That, you know, don't shove it in everyone's face, because it's gonna be like, who the hell's that? You know, where do you have a patent? Do you have something to show me? You know, And, like actually in the last Olympics, the Summer Olympics held in Brazil, during the opening ceremonies, Brazil said that they were the first to invent flight, not the Wright brothers. They said it in the opening ceremonies. I don't think really anyone caught it.
Yeah, I don't think so.
There were a couple people that caught it. My mom caught it. And it was like, well, who were they? Do you have proof? And here's the thing. It came down to who got to the patent office first.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And yeah, they may have done it, but I was also in a different country. So America was more, I'm going to say, civilized, and I'm not saying...
More isolated?
Brazil was more isolated. Brazil was still a rainforest. It wasn't like it is now. It didn't have the infrastructure like America.
So do you think it's possible that Brazil could have been?
It could have been.
Maybe, yeah.
But
because you don't have facts, you choose not to believe it at all?
Well, no. You have to go by, like, in the history books. What it says, the Wright brothers invented flight.
Kitty Hawk, was it North Carolina or Virginia? I forgot the state, but I know it was Kitty Hawk.
It was on a beach. That's all I know.
Yeah.
And the thing is even though they went to the patent office and they showed the picture, they still had to bring the patent out and show him the machine was flying, because back then flying was as taboo as being gay. It was
because it was unheard of. It was like,
right.
What?
And so the thing is maybe they did, maybe they didn't. But is there proof? No. There's proof that they did come up with flight, and it was after the Wright brothers. So the thing is it's the same as Alexander Graham Bell and
who made the cell phone?
Tom,
I'm sorry, not cell phone, but the phone.
Created the phone,
yeah.
Right?
Phone
Alexander
and
Graham Bell
light
said
bulb,
that
huh?
he created the telephone.
And black men can create both of them.
I knew that was coming. I knew that was coming.
Telephone.
The computers, the satellites.
Hey, we got the light bulb when you had an idea, and we thought.
Okay, so I actually got a two-part question for you. One was more just a statement, but okay, so do you think people like, say, Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Oprah Winfrey, do they deserve reparations?
Do they deserve reparations?
Yeah. Do they deserve to be compensated?
That's a good question. They should. They should. If we get it, they should get it.
So if one gets it, everybody gets it.
All right.
One gets it.
Here's the thing: okay.
Now, should they get it first? No, they should get there last.
Let's say the U.S. government says, okay, everybody
gets it.
Gets it. Well, okay. Now you have the Mexicans go, hey, back then we were treated quite crappy too.
Or the Irish.
And
I don't want to hear that, because first of all, we've paid Jews. It didn't even happen here. We've given money to Jews. We've given money to Indians. We've given money to the Chinese, Japanese, whoever it was with the railroads. We've given the money.
That was France.
That was France. Well, I know the Chinese was working on the railroads too at one point in time. We did them wrong.
Well,
we put them in camps. I don't know if Japanese or Chinese. We put them in camps.
The Asian community built the rail system in America.
There we go. Yeah. So we put them in camps. We put them in camps too.
Yeah.
Everybody's getting reparations except the black folks. It's like,
okay. Well, no Asian person has ever gotten reparations for being in camps in World War II.
They got something.
No one.
I want to say they got something.
Nope.
We have to look this up, man. Google. They got something. Something happened.
The thing is with reparations, you can't. It happened so long ago, and you can say it was a horrible time. When we look back at it, we can say that was a horrible time in our history. The thing is back then, that was an accepted way of life. I'm not saying it was right or any way, shape, or form, but the thing is slavery was been around for millions of years. In America, blacks have always had it worse. But the thing is, in order to move forward, you can't tear down the statues. You can't, say, okay, we're going to give you reparations, because how much, how do you figure a reparation?
How do you put a price tag on that?
I mean,
I guess I kind of agree on that.
If someone says, "Well, I want $28 million and I don't want to ever pay taxes again because you stole my family and put them here against their will," well, that was in the past.
Obama gave the Jews reparations. I don't know if it was called reparations, but this is just one previous president. So how did he? And yes, it's easy. It's probably easier to track because of the numbers. You know what I'm saying? You can trace it and track it. But
all right, with World War II, the Jews that came over.
What was so World War II? Was that with Hitler?
Yes.
Yeah.
So what was World War I about? I'm sorry, I just thought you.
World War I was basically my gun's bigger than yours.
So that was still between Germany and America, or Germany and Russia?
It was Germany and Europe. And they allied in Axis force. Don't ask me all the countries because I don't know which was which. But Germany was the main player. Germany fired first. The world.
At who? Russia or something?
England.
France, I think, too, as well.
Places.
Yeah. And America joined World War One.
On whose side? On whose side?
On England's side.
The Allied side.
Okay.
And the thing is, and I have American pride. That's where my pride's going to come in. Is during that war, they were called the trench wars because both sides dug holes and sat there and got, okay.
And they didn't move for years.
And the thing is,
no ground was
the
gained.
Lusitania, which was, I think, a sister ship to the Titanic, was blown up. Now, that ship was supposed passenger ship, but we were shipping weapons to England to help them out secretly. The Germans fired one little torpedo, and the whole ship just blew. Like, I mean, it was like, it was just a massive explosion. The Germans were sitting there like, what the hell happened? What did we hit? That's when they realized what we were doing, and we used that to get into the war. When we got into the war, we ended World War I because when we got over there, England's like, hey, we've been fighting this war. And we're like, yeah, we know. It's a stalemate. The Germans were retreating, and there is record of it where the Germans were communicating to the commanders saying, the Americans are coming. They're like, we're shooting them. Well, shoot them more. And they're like, no, they're falling. They just keep coming. They're not going in holes. They're not digging holes. They're moving forward.
So we were different.
We moved forward. And we ended that war, I think, in less than 4 years.
Something like that.
And
I do have one more question for you guys. So there's, as we know, there's just more white people in America than any other race, right? So with that being said, there's more white Americans having abortions than anybody else because there's more of them. What do y'all think about the people who sit there and say that
a black person invented abortion? I'm sorry,
you never know. No, what do you say to the people that say this whole abortion law thing is only about preserving white life?
Well, the last statistics I actually saw is that, and I actually had my notes here. I forgot what the damn site was, but in the in the black community, out of a 1,000 live births, there's going to be 400 and something abortions, whereas in the white community with the same 1,000 live births, you're only going to have 140 something abortions. So if anything, this abortion bill is actually preserving black life more than white life because of those ratios.
But being that it's larger, it kind of equals itself out, maybe.
But I mean, but 1,000 is 1,000. I mean,
well, the thing is like when you have more of a group, yeah, their statistics are always going to be higher.
Always going to be higher, correct?
No matter what. And the thing is that law was passed to help everybody. In that law.
So y'all don't think that it's used to preserve white life?
Okay, no.
I actually found the site. It's boundforlife.com. It says black women's abortion ratio has reached 444 abortions per 1,000 life births, whereas white women's abortion ratio is 124 abortions per 1,000 life births. So again, 1,000 is 1,000, no matter if it's white, black, green, red, or brown. 1,000 is 1,000. So it looks like my math is a little quick, but 3.5 times the the rate. So again, if anything, this abortion bill, I think, is actually preserving life regardless if it's white, brown, or black or Asian.
I believe far off in the future that the white race is going to be extinct, because looking at the way things are going now, you know, as we know, the darker color overdoes the lighter color as time is going on. Because even the National Geographic said that this is how you know, the world is going to look in, you know, this year.
Now, are you talking about European whites or American whites? Because right now,
European whites, I'm talking about white people. Period. Will in the future, maybe long down the line, but will white pretty much be eradicated because of the mixing of the groups? You know what I'm saying?
I think you could tie that to really any race. I mean, you could say that to the black race. That everybody's just going to be a big smorgasbord melting pot, really. Yeah, but
we know with the black race though, black is just, it's like the most, how can I say it? Black is the hardest color to. It's going to overpower almost any other.
Okay, so you're actually talking literal genetics. Skin color.
I'm talking about genetics.
You're being literal, not just in the fact of the inside on the person.
I'm talking about like genetics. You know, if a black man has sex with a white woman 9 times out of 10, that baby's going to come out.
All right.
Right.
Well,
okay, now I follow you.
You have to look at like Neanderthals, us.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Neanderthals are gone.
They're gone.
But where they bred with us,
yes, they had to.
There's people out there today, and you're talking millions of years, that still have the traits of a Neanderthal.
Correct.
And they still have, you know, and it's all in the genes.
Mm-hmm.
And white, like you talk about white people, our genes, like skin pigment and stuff, yours are more dominant.
Mm-hmm.
But what we bring to the table, just because we've been everywhere and before everyone else, and
that's not true either. But
did black man also? They
created the first boats.
They created travel. They created everything.
Go ahead.
But because of like our travels and our being places before others were, and well, taking advantage of that situation, our immunity is a lot higher than a lot of other cultures.
You look at things that a lot of white people do, like bungee jumping. And, you know, y'all do more extreme things.
White people are crazy.
Yeah, y'all do more extreme things that might shorten the lifespan.
I think that's just men in general.
Yeah.
I mean,
yes. We do the dummies.
We do some
stupid
shit.
I want to go skydiving and bungee jumping. I love that stuff. It's a great adrenaline rush. My daughter does not. She likes her feet on the ground.
But honestly, the most dangerous thing anybody will do any day is driving your car down the road.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the most dangerous. That's actually, I forgot how many times better than skydiving or bungee jumping. I mean,
you're saying it's more riskier than those things?
It's riskier, but there's not that adrenaline rush because.
Agreed.
Like when you're
what is it? What is that? What is that adrenaline rush? What is so amazing about that adrenaline rush?
It's just because
as black folks, we look at white folks and be like,
what the hell?
You know what I mean? That I would do that. So what is it?
That's why white people were around the world first.
Will Smith.
He did. Look how long it took him.
Yeah. I'll actually say the rush is just you're on that cutting edge of something going really, really wrong, but everything just turns out right.
So is it something about being close to death that brings more life?
It's
literally like
or great bodily harm.
You ever do something where like or almost get in an accident and you're sitting there like this and like you've got all that adrenaline. Like, that to me is like the best rush ever because you're like, I'm alive. This is awesome.
So is that what it is?
Life is so much better.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, because you're scared. You might have soiled yourself. But the thing is
right, exactly.
Like, that was fun. I've ziplined and going on a zip line from tree to tree. I mean, you're thinking. I mean, I've heard horror stories where girls have gotten a haircut and I mean, it pulls the scalp right off, and then other people, the zip line hasn't stopped and they're just right into a tree.
Yeah,
it makes it more fun.
And risk,
like
it's that risk factor.
All right, if this happens, I'm fucked, but this is going to be awesome.
So right, it's going to be a damn good story to tell.
Right, and
but
I mean, I love that stuff. Everyone else in my family,
they're not having it.
No.
That is.
But again, that's just men in general. I mean, we do some really stupid stuff. We really do. I mean, our women looking at us like, what the hell are you doing?
Right.
Even we sit there, we go, we don't know, but it looks fun.
Yeah, what can I think of some of the stupidest things?
I think probably back in my early 20s, just street racing, getting behind the wheel of a car.
Fast and Furious?
Fast and Furious style, you know, and it was just so stupid because not only did I endanger myself, but also other people on the road.
Did you see any bad things happening?
Not me personally, but of course, you know, there was stories all over the news of, you know, like so-and-so flipped with their friends in there and killed their friends tragically, or they ran and they took a corner too fast and they hit head on with an innocent bystander. That was probably my dumbest thing I've ever done to this day, and I'm actually glad. I'm very fortunate that nothing bad happened to me or anybody else.
What about you, Mike? What's the craziest thing you can think of that you've done?
The craziest thing I've ever done was in Rhode Island. I was little, probably about 5-6 years old, well, a little bit older. There was about a 30 or 40 foot pine tree. It was my favorite thing. I love climbing trees. It's a white people thing. And so
you said it, not me.
I had to throw that in there.
No, but according to AC, black man invented climbing the tree, right?
Well, I'm trying to tell you, bro. You just don't know. They seen the fruit and they were like, hey.
I can't comment on that. I'll get in a lot of trouble though. But I'd climb up to the very top. Wrap my hand around the very top of the tree.
You jump off?
I'd have one foot on one of the lower branches, and I'd be swinging out over a driveway. Now, you're talking probably about maybe
as high as this building.
Feet. Well, I don't know how high the roof is, but about the height of the roof, maybe a little bit higher. And my mom's looking for me. She can hear me. I can hear her. And I'm like, I'm up here. And she sees her kid going like this over the driveway and then back into the woods and then going back over.
Oh, Lord.
And I mean, I did it. And to me, it was fun. I didn't even think
Did your mom freak out?
Oh, yeah. I was told to get down and never climb that tree again. God. I didn't listen, of course.
Yeah, never.
The only time I actually stopped doing that is when I heard a loud crack from the tree. Then I said, but it was my favorite tree. And yes, I was an oddball when I was a kid. So I didn't want to hurt the tree. So I said no. And that was the same tree that I made my stepfather at the time go out with a can of Raid because I found a nest of termites. And I made him kill the entire nest to save the tree's life. And so I'm very nature. Yeah. But when I got older, I was driving a Cougar XR7 with a 5.0. Okay. And I just gotten my license. I was going probably 60, 70 miles an hour on this road. There was a sign that says detour. And, you see one sign there. I'm like, okay, I need to slow down. Well, no. Then there was the arrow, detour that way. I look. Straight ahead, there's nothing. The road goes up. I couldn't see what was beyond the road. The road goes like this. Oh. I slammed on the brakes. I figure I'm dead. I'm gonna go in a ravine. I'm gonna wake up in a hospital. A little bit. I sat there. I stood both feet on the brake, and I went up. I was airborne. I probably got about 2 feet off the ground. Thank God it was a dirt road. So I landed. I skidded. I probably stopped about 100 feet after the paved road. That's how fast I was going. The speedometer in the car didn't work. Oh, shit. I sat there, and when the car came to a stop, I'm like, that was awesome! Pretty much. And the thing that I thought was really cool, the dust cloud, probably about 2 minutes later, came by. That I created for my car.
Damn.
It was like 2 minutes later, it came by, and I'm like, that is awesome.
You know, it's funny when you say that because that's kind of going back to our fun facts, kind of how sound works. Like you may hear an airplane, when you look up, you don't see it anymore. That's because it took so long for the sound to get to you. Right. That's just funny when you say that. That's what it reminded
you of. Yeah. Yeah.
It took so long for the cloud to
I'd say that's the only thing I worry about my daughter when she starts to drive is doing that.
Yeah.
but everyone does it. So as long as she does it the right way.
All right. Well, I got some homework for you, sir. Your homework is you gonna have to teach her about three. I just give you 3 black people and the history behind them. Okay? How's that sound to you? You want to pick your own, or you want me to give you some? Just because I want her to be able to know this history and know a little bit more about it. What do you think?
You can pick them.
Okay, I pick
because
all right.
I know the famous people. And
we gonna go with the basics.
I want to bring one thing up, just as a thought. Okay. All right, and they actually found proof of this.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, that Martin Luther King was a sexual predator.
What?
Underage girls.
I heard that too recently. I heard that too recently.
There's proof.
So should we tear down his statue? Theoretically,
okay, go ahead.
Hold on, follow me here for a little bit. If we're going to tear down Robert E. Lee for whatever he did or whatever,
he's a proven pedophile.
Okay, so if he's a proven pedophile, does his statues and everything with him comes down?
It has to be taken down.
Okay, now as long as we're consistent with that, then I'm with you on that. As long as we're consistent.
It hurts my heart to say I might get sniped on the way out.
Well, here's the thing, like. I heard about it. I was like, no way. I actually looked it up a little bit.
That'll be a very sad day in America if that's proven. Very sad.
The thing is, and I want to bring this up, is Clinton at
you talking about Hillary or Bill?
Bill. At Nixon's funeral, he had said something that angered a lot of people. Which was when this man is remembered, let's not remember him for his lowest point in life, but let's remember him for what he did in the life.
Now, why did they say that about Nixon? Is that Watergate? What's Nixon?
Right. Okay. That's, Nixon was...
That's pretty horrible, wasn't he?
I think the only president actually to be
impeached
because of what he was doing. The thing is you look at what Nixon had done before and after, and I don't know specifics. I haven't really looked it up. But what Clinton was saying is, this man's a good man. Yeah, he made a mistake, big one, but let's not judge him by that one mistake. And the same with Martin Luther King. He made a mistake. What he did, if it's totally proven, like I said, there is some proof. If it's proven without a doubt that he did that stuff, well, I'm not going to remember him for that.
Right.
I'm going to remember him for what he stood for.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say that was his dark side. And I'll let my daughter know that, but I'm not going to go into it because it's important, but what he did for his people and others.
Right. It's more important.
Right. And it's sad to say that for those who were victimized by him,
Do you think if she found that out, though, later that he was, it would hurt her more?
I think if they find more and more proof, it's gonna kill.
It's gonna hurt.
It's really gonna.
First person, Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey is the first person I'm suggest that you. I know you. When you look him up though, you be like, oh, this man was great.
You gotta write down the names.
Okay, I'll write them down. Second one will be Denmark Vesey. Okay. And a third one. Sis, what can we think of a third one? I kind of want to say Khalil Muhammad, but. Nah, he might be a little bit too much. He say things like white devil, so I don't think I want to go that route. To a child. So Denmark Vesey was good. Marcus Garvey is good. Who is another good person to bring up? Maybe I don't see anybody saying anything. What do y'all think? Who? Oh, look, Miles had said something. I didn't even pay attention. Who do y'all think is a good person to look up? Is it the lady who made the hot cone or who did the hair? What was her name?
That's basic.
That is basic. Who is somebody else good? Come on, folks. Anybody?
Only thing I could think of is Rosa Parks.
Yeah, Rosa Parks is basic too. She's gonna learn Rosa Parks in school.
Yeah.
She's not gonna learn Denmark Vesey or.
There's a movie. I think it's called The Butler.
Okay.
I saw that one.
Did y'all see Central Park 5 movie on Netflix?
That I did
when
not.
When they see us?
I did not.
Guys, as grown men, it's going to make y'all cry.
Yeah.
It's going to make y'all cry, boy.
I'll have to watch that one. As I said, I can have a look up that Butler
That Butler?
And,
Okay.
yeah.
If he's a true person, that's based off a true story.
I think he was a butler for what, 40 years, 50 years, something like
I didn't
that.
see
In
that
the
movie,
White
to be
House.
honest, guys.
It was real good.
He said 12
It's
years,
based
you
on
said?
true facts.
Yeah, yeah. Who was the guy that played him?
Forrest Whitaker?
Yes, Forrest Whitaker. Yes.
And it's based on a true story.
Yeah, yeah.
It's how his family thought of him and said, "Hey, you're back into slavery," and he's like, "No, this is something."
So he
better."
was getting paid to be a butler?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He was in the
But-
White House.
Like this is
In the
back,
White House, you said?
Yeah, he was
This
serving in
is-
the White House.
This is back in, I want to say
40s, 50s,
yeah, the 40s and
something like
70s.
that. Yeah, he served. I forgot how many presidents, but he served for like 40 or 50 years as a butler to the White House.
Y'all teaching me some things.
Yeah.
Hold up.
It's good.
Shoot.
It-
I need to watch this movie.
It was a really good movie.
Well,
And-
Y'all sure? Y'all
White
sure?
people teaching a black person about black
Huh?
people.
Langston Hughes. Was he the poet? Langston Hughes? Well, y'all look up Langston Hughes. I think okay.
Like I said, just write down the names. And
Y'all sure $1 million is not enough? Y'all sure?
10 million minimum,
10
son.
million.
10 million
10
minimum.
million?
Minimum. And it also depends on what it
$1
is.
million. I would. I wouldn't really be happy with it
Mhm.
because of my reasons.
Mhm.
But if I was not married and I was dating,
Mhm.
then
No, it's not the
it'd
same.
be totally up to her.
It's not the same. She got this.
Now,
This has to be your wife.
if we're married, I'd have to put my foot down and say no.
Okay.
And
Any stipulations to it?
Yeah. So if y'all did get the 10 mil, now is there?
And-
We're not gonna talk
well,
about
and
it.
I'm not even sure 10 million is enough, to be honest, because
I'd actually talk
because
to the guy and I'd be like, "What is your plan?" Because spending the night could be maybe he wants her to watch our street.
No, we
Strangers
know what that
marathon.
means. It's not.
Yeah.
We know what
Well,
that means.
the thing is, I want specifics on what he's planning.
you want to
I don't care.
You want
what
a game
she's
plan.
planning because I want to know what he's planning.
That's-
And the only reason I say that is just because on the day of my judgment, I'm going to have to answer to God. That's pretty damn
$1
sacred.
million was good. God, I mean, I had to pay rent.
Straight to hell, son. Straight to hell.
Oh, that's too funny. Well, all right, guys, man. We appreciate you guys for tuning in. I appreciate you guys coming as my guests. Man.
Yeah.
You guys, like I said, I learned from you guys. We learned from each other.
Yeah.
And we actually talked about some good stuff today, man.
Awesome.
And I think this is the thing that's actually this country needs to go back to is,
Mhm.
Obviously we have some
Having
different
fun.
viewpoints
Right,
and
right.
we're conversing without raising voices
Mhm.
or putting anybody down. And I mean, I think that's something we need more of.
Yeah, I do too.
I really do.
Too. Straight up, man. Hey, you get a chance out there, go talk to somebody who you don't usually go talk to. Have a conversation. You know what I'm saying? You be surprised on the things that they say or they think. But until next time, y'all. Peace.
Later, everybody.
Bye.